All right, let's get into a poem that once you've read it really sticks with you. We're talking about one of the most powerful and most studied poems of the 20th century, Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes. It is just unforgettable, with this chilling voice of pure unapologetic power.
And yet it really doesn't get more direct than this. This one line just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It captures the brutal, uncompromising heart of the entire poem. It's a declaration of absolute ownership, absolute authority, and it really sets the stage for everything that follows.
So you have to be asking, who on earth is talking like this? Well, it's a hawk. Seriously. The poet, Ted Hughes, was completely fascinated with the savage, unsentimental side of nature, and in this poem, he gives this predator a voice. It was published way back in his 1960 collection, Lupercal, and it's what we call a dramatic monologue, which means we get to listen in on the innermost thoughts of the hawk itself.
Okay, so to really get this poem, we have to get inside the hawk's head. So let's start at the very beginning and look closely at the opening lines, word by word, to see exactly how Hughes builds this voice of pure dominance. So the poem opens with this image of complete stillness, total control. The hawk isn't even hunting, it's just roosting. But even when it's doing nothing, you can just feel the power radiating off of it. And what's really striking is the tone. It's so calm, almost meditative. This isn't an animal that's anxious or on edge. This is a creature that is supremely confident. And every little detail here is so significant. The top of the wood, that's not just a physical location, that's its position at the top of the food chain. Eyes closed, that's not carelessness, that's ultimate confidence. And this phrase, no falsifying dream, that's the hawk basically saying it operates on pure, brutal instinct, unlike us humans with all our complex thoughts. Even the physical description, that repetition in hooked head and hooked feet, it just sounds like a weapon, doesn't it?
So, the hawk sees itself as the boss. But as we move on, it gets even more intense. This bird doesn't just see itself as a part of nature, it sees itself as nature's greatest and final achievement.
I mean, listen to that. The arrogance is just off the charts. It's a godlike statement. Notice the capitalization of creation. That's a direct nod to the Bible, suggesting some divine, cosmic effort went into making it. And then, in this incredible reversal, the hawk says it now holds that same creation in its grasp. Wow. So here's the crucial takeaway. The hawk sees itself as the masterpiece of evolution, the absolute endpoint of all that creative energy. It's not just a product of creation anymore. Now it's the master of it. And the language just hammers this home, right? The constant repetition of I and my throughout the poem reinforces this incredibly self-centered, egotistical worldview.
So, from this position of self-proclaimed divinity, the hawk then kind of lays out its philosophy on life, and maybe more importantly, on death. And let me tell you, it does not make any apologies.
Now, this is such a fascinating line. What the hawk is essentially saying is, I don't need to lie to myself, or to you, about what I am. It completely rejects all the complex and often dishonest arguments that we humans use to justify our actions.
And that's what sophistry is, right? It's the use of these clever-sounding but totally false arguments, usually to deceive someone. So when the hawk says there's no sophistry in its body, it's saying it's all about pure action, pure instinct. It doesn't need misleading logic because its truth is brutal and incredibly simple.
And this just illustrates the point perfectly. The polite human idea of manners is smashed right up against the graphic violence of tearing off heads. It's a shocking contrast. For the hawk, this isn't cruelty. It's just proper behavior. It sees its job as distributing or allotting death, like it's a duty. So, in the hawk's worldview, its right to kill is absolute. It doesn't need any justification. Its flight path is a straight line of remorseless efficiency, going direct through the bones of the living. Think about that for a second. This is a worldview totally free of morality or remorse or any need for a debate. It just is. Okay, so we've spent some time inside the hawk's mind, line by line. But what does it all really mean? That's the big question that has fascinated readers and critics for over 60 years. What does this hawk actually represent? And this is the heart of the debate. Is Hughes just giving us a raw portrait of nature thinking, which is something he actually claimed? Or is this powerful, egotistical voice an allegory for something, well, something deeply human? Well, scholars have pretty much landed on three main interpretations. First, you've got Hughes's own explanation. The hawk is just the voice of nature itself, raw, violent, and totally unsentimental. The second view reads the hawk as a political symbol,
an allegory for a fascist dictator whose ego and remorseless violence sound a lot like the tyrants of the 20th century. And the third idea is that the hawk is really a mirror, reflecting humanity's own arrogance, our belief that we're the pinnacle of creation and our own terrible capacity for destruction.
And this isn't just some wild fan theory. The idea of the hawk as a political tyrant is a really serious, ongoing discussion in literary circles. I mean, the parallels between the hawk's absolute sense of entitlement and the mindset of a dictator are just too compelling for scholars to ignore.
But no matter which interpretation you lean toward, the poem's ending is undeniably chilling. It's this final declaration of eternal, unchanging dominance that really lands the punch.
The sun is behind me. It's like the hawk is saying that the entire universe is backing its play. Then, nothing has changed since I began. It sees itself as a timeless, permanent force. And that final line, so short, so simple, so resolute. I am going to keep things like this. That's an assertion of absolute control, not just over the present, but over the future too.
And I think that's the key to why this poem is so deeply unsettling. The language is so cool and controlled. There's no rage here, no screaming. It's a calm, rational monologue from a creature whose whole life is based on violent domination. And it's that very contrast that makes it so memorable.
Ultimately, the hawk's voice is so disturbing because it's so sure of itself. It is completely, 100% free of doubt. And that leaves us with a pretty provocative question to think about. How often do we hear that same tone of absolute certainty, that same unapologetic claim to power in our own human world?